Everybody, thank you so much for coming. Again, my name is Kevin O'Connell.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Meehan.
So I think obviously what we'd like to do is we do have a little bit of a script and we have some talking points that Tiffany and I would both like to jump into, but since there's a handful here, it's a somewhat intimate crowd, we'd love to probably turn it over to Q&A sooner than later and hear why you guys are here, what you're curious about, and what insight we can best provide in the digital marketing world. So I feel like I'm at home. I actually have like a couch kind of like this, so we can keep this like a fireside chat exactly. So do you want to introduce yourself first, Tiffany?
So I grew up in DC and then moved out to Northern Virginia, and I went back to DC for school, and that's kind of where I started to kind of get into really social media when it was just starting. No one was using Instagram or anything like that. So I worked at a 930 Club in DC through college, and that's when it started to kind of build, and so I kind of took advantage of that no one wanted to do anything social media. So I started doing that a little bit, and then I ended up graduating from GW, so I love that he's teaching there, and went to Nashville, so I kind of still was doing music stuff, still in that world, but I really fell in love more with the photography side. So I was taking pictures for different companies and doing all that, and then the pictures were just sitting there doing nothing. So I kind of, there was that lapse of who's actually going to post content, and it kind of filled that gap. So that's kind of where for me it all started, and then I just started taking on different restaurants, bars, nonprofits, really whoever, because there was such a need for someone actually managing content with quality pictures and video and stuff. So ended up moving back here, and so I've been consulting, and I was fortunate to work at the mayor's office when I got back, and got to really work in her creative campaign. So, and now I'm out back where I grew up. My family's all there, so it's really nice. And I work at a National Conference Center, which is a 900-room, million-square-foot building for trainings, events, literally anything you want to do. So it's very different, but it's really fun because we have so many different clients, and a lot of government clients, unfortunately, right now who are hurting, and so we are just doing our best to kind of, create new programs for the spring and just really using social media to keep everything in line because they're not checking email. So that's kind of me in a nutshell right now.
You were also saying that the other big tie to that conference center is all the wineries out there?
Yes. Yeah. So with
I'm convinced to go out there.
With our marketing, I mean, it's such a good opportunity to offer. I mean, we have Marines that come, and there's 600 Marines, and like, where are they going to go? So if we can tie into a brewery and have them come, I mean, we can guarantee 300 Marines on a Saturday afternoon for that brewery. So really using that marketing, and just our database, like emails, especially with our government clients, a lot that we work with, I can't go into their events and take pictures of Marines training. So it's more of the word of mouth from them, and then social media, them liking stuff, and just kind of old school a little bit, just giving them a business card, take it there, and you get 10% off, like that kind of thing, and they love that. So that's been really fun, getting to kind of develop those social programs.
Cool.
Yeah.
So currently I'm a digital storyteller, and I run my own company called FYN Creative, which we're a digital storytelling and kind of video production firm for higher ed, nonprofits, and startups. I also adjunct and teach at General Assembly. That's how I know Carla, and that's why I think I was asked to be up here tonight. And I also adjunct at George Washington University in the business school. What led me into all of this, into the world that I do now, is I graduated college in 2006, and I remember learning in the textbooks the 4 Ps of marketing: product, place, price, promotion. And quickly when I graduated in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, that's when all this buzz of like, we can use Facebook as a marketing tool and we should have a YouTube channel. However, I did not go into the traditional corporate marketing world as much as the world was pushing me that way. I decided I wanted to be Joe College and continue working on a college campus into my late 20s. And I did that. And so I worked in service learning, student leadership, campus recreation, but the marketing degree never left me, because the one thing that we had to do was market these programs and services and offerings and trips to college students. And probably around 2010 or 11, when I was working at Rutgers University in New Jersey, my executive director came to me and said, "Can you be on this committee? Can you sit on this committee? Can you educate these people how to use Facebook? And next thing I know, 3 years later, and before I left, we started a marketing and media department within one of the student affairs departments. We started with 0 budget, 0 personnel, and 0 equipment across the board. And I should say 0 respect. Like, a lot of people didn't know what we were doing and why. A lot of people thought I just sat on Facebook all day, which is not the truth. And when I left there, we had a 6-figure budget, a whole closet of every gear you could think of to create YouTube content, Instagram content. And we had 10 students, a couple grad students, and a couple graphic designers. And actually, that's actually how I got connected with the General Assembly. A girl, Emily, works there, who used to work with me at Rutgers. Anyway, my wife had a career opportunity, and in 2014, we packed up everything in New Jersey, moved down here in October of 2014, and instead of job searching, I said, let me give this a shot, the entrepreneur thing a shot. And 4.5 years later now, we do work with AU, GW, I teach here, I have a book, I do a lot of different things. And so I know, one, what it's like to have to do a lot of marketing or tell your story with very limited personnel, limited time, and limited budget. And I feel like maybe a lot of you have that, can empathize with that or have questions about how to do that. So that's kind of my world, and that's why I'm here tonight. So what question do you want to jump into first, Tiffany?
So let's see. Well, the first one you had, which I thought was really good, was why is it important for us to understand the trends within marketing? So I think that there's kind of so much information all the time, and I think it's really important to look at who your audience is and what they want. I think sometimes I like to follow brands that are on like a big spectrum, but I think the brands that I like most kind of keep it really simple. I don't really like when brands use like a ton of emojis. I think it dilutes the message a little bit. It looks kind of kitschy and weird sometimes. So I just kind of like keeping things like very simple that everyone could read. And I know that that's been a big thing with, just knowing your audience, I think is really important for the trends. So the age groups, who you're targeting, all of that.
The thing I tell people, I think it's important to follow the trends or at least understand how these apps are evolving is, how many people in here are practitioners, like actually do marketing for a living, some role of marketing, right? And so oftentimes I see professionals that either you do it in-house, like you're responsible for it all, whether that's a one-person department or you work with a team, so it's all lies on you, or you work with freelancers, contractors, agencies. And I think both sides, you either have to report up to your boss or your clients and say, this is why we're doing it, this is why it's working, why it's not working, this is why we should be on Instagram stories, why we should be creating video or YouTube content. So you need to report up. And also, if you're working with agencies or contractors and you're paying them thousands of dollars, you should have an idea, like when they send you a report or they suggest something, that you have some knowledge of what this data or analytics or what Facebook ads or why they're suggesting you what to do. And so, if you truly all here are marketers or want to be aspiring marketers, the easiest thing to do, and I'd be more than happy to follow up with people or give a list to Carla, is just 5 minutes a day. I think the great thing that Tiffany, you said, of like following brands and accounts that are doing it right and seeing how they're manipulating these accounts and what they're doing differently as these new features come out. But also you Google search benchmarking report. Every quarter there's reports coming out. What's the new algorithm on Facebook? What are the engagement rate benchmarks across nonprofits versus education? And so I think it's just an easy practice every 5 minutes a day to go on LinkedIn, to go on Twitter, to go on Google search and consume what's happening. But the biggest thing is just using a platform. Like be on Instagram, be on YouTube, be on Facebook personally, and just see what's evolving. And I have some notes that I made of what I would talk about each platform. So that's why I think it's important. What's the next question? So let's see here. What are the key platforms you think, Tiffany, that are important to a digital marketer right now to learn for later this year?
Facebook, even though it's like a necessary evil and it changes all the time, there is like a lot of data that they have at this point. And people, I feel like from the past year, all the things that have happened, people still aren't leaving. So it's kind of, it's here. So figuring out the best ways to use it. And then again, it's just I'm really into getting the email marketing. So once I have your email, I can put it in, and then I can basically just take data and target and find out, what you're clicking on our site. If you've interacted on any post of ours, I can, kind of see if you watched a video and pull those people that watched the video to target back to them. So I think it's really, really important to look at retargeting and just focus in on maybe not every single platform, because that's what I think kind of gets overwhelming. But if you focus on like little ones and just really develop your audience there, I found that to be really successful, especially in the DC area when I was doing the campaign here. DC creatives are it's like a very broad term. So figuring out what DC creatives really want. Do they want spaces like this? Are they interested in coming to this? Are they interested in going to restaurants? And just kind of engaging them. So that was, I don't know if that answered the question.
I think it does.
So yeah, so Facebook, it's forever. I actually don't even have a personal Facebook account because I was on it all day at work and then all day at home. So I just kind of gave it up for a few months and then So
you were on it for like 20 hours out of the 24 hours? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Key platforms. I have two. And again, this is all relevant. I don't know everybody's background or what you're trying to do with marketing or Facebook or social media, but two that I think about often is out of the 4 or 5 major social media apps, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. LinkedIn right now has the greatest bang for your buck as far as organic reach. It used to be Instagram, but I think LinkedIn, there was a small business owner that came to one of a presentation I was at, and she didn't realize her LinkedIn videos were getting 500, 1,000, 1,500 views organically. And I was like, you need to do more of this. You're getting great engagement. And so I think understanding LinkedIn, whether you're posting blogs, articles, videos, and understanding that the same thing that you do on Instagram and Facebook of like putting captions and putting text and telling a story without sound is just as important on LinkedIn as it is with these other platforms. And I bet you'll see LinkedIn continue to evolve with like more live video and just more things that the other platforms are doing. And then the second underrated tool, and I talk about this in one of my marketing classes I teach at GA, is Google search and YouTube pre-roll ads. So two sub-examples real quick. This summer I was searching to buy a new car. And because I was logged into my Gmail account and on Google search, I was searching for like a Subaru Outback or a Nissan Pathfinder or something. And to this day, I still now get like Nissan pre-roll ads because I put in certain keywords and Nissan has a bunch of money that they can target anybody in the DC area who's searching for a certain car and run pre-roll ads on YouTube. And I couldn't skip them fast enough. And so you can do that. If you have the knack and learn the knowledge of Google AdWords and connecting it together with your YouTube account, you can run pre-roll ads. I remember my wife and I just moved, so we were looking for a new vacuum. And for some reason I clicked on the Bissell site, and now I get all these vacuum pre-roll ads, and I'm like, oh, stop. But they're tracking me. So you can do this in your world and learn how to do it. So those are two platforms I would learn.
Go back to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do you think it's worth it to kind of self-branding if you're with the company to not just post, blog articles or whatever about your company, but, post things that speak more to your brand?
Mm-hmm. If you're trying to potentially job search someday, or you're trying to like grow your own little brand or side thing and become an expert, I think it's useful. Obviously, you want to, if you're sharing something about work or about something going on at work, you want to probably be careful what you're sharing. But I think that is the spot to do it, and especially from a job search point of view. I was just working with this guy Casey, and he's a product manager, and I said, if people LinkedIn search you right now, they're not finding anything. But 2, when they do, they should get a sense of like 70% of your world is product management, SaaS product development, et cetera. And so now he has a whole list of like 10 different stories and blog and video content that he can share in the last quarter of like what he's doing or what his thoughts are. he just took a Udemy course, and now he's gonna like break that down what he learned, and now he has like 3 blog articles. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tiffany? Or
No, I mean, I can see some friends on LinkedIn that use it really, really well. If they're more in like the government consulting world, I think that people are looking at white pages and they're sharing that, and their audience is into that. And I just like them, so I'm proud of them when I see their LinkedIn updates. I'm not clicking on anything, but I'm not their audience for that. But it's also, you can kind of see when they're starting to job hunt a little bit. People kind of put different stuff, and I do think if we can all help each other and upvote the stuff and suggest them for social media and marketing, little stuff like that, I think it helps kind of beefs up the LinkedIn page. So.
We had, I formerly worked at Deloitte and Booz Allen, and at both of those companies, we were basically begging our senior leadership to write blog posts and post things on their LinkedIn because they represent the company. And obviously we want to market them as thought leaders, and those types of things were hopefully helpful. It worked better with some people than with others.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked about that. I mean, for our senior leaders, that was a way for us to market, for us to get, hopefully for us to get better speaking opportunities for them. But for someone who is at a lower level, is that helpful to show that you are, representing your company in a good way, you are an expert in this field, whatever it is. So you're basically saying that
I don't think it hurt.
Yeah.
No.
I have 2 ideas we could talk about later after this that I think would be make it an easier ask or an easier thing to do.
Okay.
So Tiffany, the next question is what, I'm going to is it cool if we jump around in some of these and then get to Q&A? Cool. Cool. So Tiffany, what current digital marketing trends do you think will lose popularity? So we talked about 2 that we think you need to know and are gaining traction. What are 2 that you think will lose popularity?
Well, I think that there's still, like, every single year I read all these articles about like AI and VR and all of that. But I think it's just important to look at whoever, what company you're at or what client you're working for. Because to be realistic with like their budget. So I feel like that, for example, like a lot of the chatbot stuff, messenger stuff, I think that's going to gain popularity. But also I feel like VR, especially if I'm at a venue that would be super helpful. But also it's very, it's expensive. So to invest in kind of those really expensive technology products and ideas, I think that people are going to kind of go back towards more of a authentic, organic, let's just create really beautiful content because that always works. I think a really beautiful picture with a whole campaign built around it with incentives and discounts and different stuff like that, just to make more of a community vibe. So yeah, I don't know if it's a trend, but I think Pinterest, for example, is really hard to pin down if you're not selling a product. I use Pinterest and I get like all the ads and different stuff, but everyone kind of just lumps it in with social media, and that's kind of, I don't think it works all the time. So I know for weddings, for example, it's great, but now people are so burned out that it's like a negative thing to say anything at a wedding. But I saw that on Pinterest, and the bride gets very upset. So
they call them like Pinterest weddings.
Yeah, so it's kind of backfired a little way. So, but it's interesting to see that it got so big and then kind of crashed a little bit. So.
As far as losing popularity, one of the predictions I've written down, one of my recent blog posts is, I just feel in the last 90 days, Instagram, something happened, and I'm seeing more and more ads in my stories and feed. And I've tried to done some of my own analysis and reporting, and I'm counting like a 1-to-6 ratio. So for every 6 posts, every 6 stories, I'm seeing 1 ad. And I feel like back in early fall, late summer, that wasn't the case. And I don't know if that's just my demo or me. I have talked to college students. I have talked to other professionals. And a couple identifiers why I predict Instagram to lose popularity is, I think it was sometime late last year, Kevin Systrom left Facebook and Instagram bought Facebook. He's out. I'm not sure why, or why maybe they were doing something more. Two, I think the Instagram ads are sloppy. I think they're lazy. There's no effort. They don't look real. They don't look organic. And three, the trend of like, you know, a handful of years ago, Instagram organic reach was about 10% for engagement rate. Then a couple of years ago, it was about 4.5% across the board. Like that was really good. And now I think you're lucky at 2.5%. Again, that's industry. That's could be different for everybody. But so I think if Instagram continues to push more ads or do you remember over the holidays they like had a swipeable feed? I think if that happens, I think you'll see people start hating on Instagram a little bit more. That's just my gut, and so I think everybody's eggs are in the Instagram basket, which are good, but I'm not relying on that. I'm not putting all my money on Instagram. That's my thought. You go next. Where do you want to take it, Tiffany? And then we can open it up for some.
Okay, so everyone always talks about video. So this question says, video proved to be very impactful for digital marketing in 2018. It's projected to account for 80% of total internet traffic. Mm-hmm. What are your opinions? So I think video, again, unless it's a really nicely edited video with like quality messaging and a story and makes sense, then it works. But if you're just kind of shooting video just to shoot, to put something up, because I always got like a lot of, some of my bosses would be like, why aren't we doing more video? And just, that would be it. It's kind of like, well, what kind of video do you want? It's like, well, we should just be doing more because I heard that we should do more video. So it's kind of, you have to have a storyboard and you have to have an idea of what the whole campaign is going to be. My whole thing with social media is keeping a story going as long as possible. So I think an audience can really become attached to something like that. This week, for example, we are dealing with the furlough, and we have 50% of our clients are government. So they're mostly in the area, some are not there. But we ended up, we have the capacity to do it, which I'm really thankful for, but we open to give breakfast, lunch, or dinner to anyone that brought a federal ID in. So it kind of just started on social media. My bosses were very nervous that there was going to be like a line out the door, and it kind of is it's happening now. So, but it's been great to kind of capture a little bit of that. But at the same time, we don't want to do a video. And some people have come to us saying, do you want us to come out and do this stuff? So I just think that video can be impactful. It just has to be said in the right way for the right reason. And for example, Facebook, if you put really beautiful pictures in a slideshow, that algorithm is still seen as a video. So you can still get a lot of the upvotes from that and everything, and it will still, the analytics will still come back for a great video. So if you don't have the budget for it necessarily, or the time, or you know, all that, you can still input it and kind of get that going for your audience.
I'm going to slightly disagree with you a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I know.
There's a time and place for produced 4K video, and that's kind of my bread. That's a lot of what I do. And I would agree with, the one thing I would agree for, like very targeted campaigns, very high level brands, very sensitive topics. Yes, a really nice lit, nice produced video, do it. And at the same time though, over the holidays or before the holidays, I was watching John Mayer's Instagram Live comedy hour on Instagram, and it was a crap production. It was a mess, but like because it was access to his like living room and to some celebrities, and it was completely unscripted, I was like, this isn't the John Mayer you get in a E! News interview or a CNN interview, and I think there's levels, and so what you just said with like taking in a production crew, 3 cameras, lights, and all that, and interviewing people that are laid off right now, that's insensitive. It could be insensitive, right? But like putting a phone maybe, or saying, hey, do you mind if we interview you like on a phone, and you get like, it's a little bit less invasive. So I think there's levels of video production, like live, phone, 4K. You know, right now I'm recording this on my Sony. Then there's just so many levels, and it costs different amounts of money. So I don't think it needs to be all produced. And so if you think about on Facebook or YouTube, what are some of the videos that made you cry or laugh or share, and most likely a lot of them were like filmed on somebody's phone, and the lighting was bad and things like that. So I think it has a place and time for your brand or organization or nonprofit, whatever it might be. And I think it's convincing leadership why you need which, produced, unproduced, live, etc.
So speaking of filming things on your iPhone, how do you guys feel about Snapchat?
Well, I think with Instagram stories coming out, it kind of took that the
Yeah.
air out of it a little bit.
Totally.
I don't really use Snapchat. My younger brother and sister do, so it makes me feel old when they get mad that I don't check Snapchat, which does make me old because I feel like I was around when it came out and I downloaded it. But I think it's the convenience factor a little bit. People are waking up, going on Instagram, they get to see all the stories. Snapchat's fun, but it's definitely like more peer-to-peer now. I don't really get any. I mean, I see ads and stuff. I know like news organizations, like I follow some of those, and that's good. But for news stuff, I'm going on Twitter because it's real time, and it's kind of old news if I'm getting it, even 3 hours later in the morning. So yeah, I don't really. I mean, celebrities, I guess they use it,
Yeah.
but I think Instagram is where everyone is for that too. Because Instagram Live, like you said, that's really fun. And the quality on Snapchat is just still lagging. The pictures when you take it, even Instagram, the video, because even if you want to put like a GIF over stuff, it completely makes it look blurry. So I don't know why they haven't done it yet, but yeah.
3 people I would check out on Snapchat to see how like brands are doing is Taco Bell is doing some really cool stuff. They actually hired like 2 19 or 20-year-olds to be their Snapchat host, and then they take a long threaded microphone and they go to new Taco Bells and then they do a TV show, like a Snapchat show. But they're hiring 19-year-olds to market to 17 and 19-year-olds. Jimmy John's is another good one. They do Modified Monday. So every Monday they put up a sandwich that was featured by somebody in Kentucky, Colorado, New Jersey, and they feature them and say, this is Kevin's modified sandwich. Order 5 and do this, this, and this is your modified sandwich. They do some other cool stuff. And then the third one, love them or hate them, Barstool Sports shows up Monday through Friday and does a 2 to 5 minute Snapchat show Monday through Friday. And that's the one thing I check every day. And then they have ads in between, so they're selling ad space. And I would agree with you, Tiffany, that it's still I don't know, how old are your brothers and sisters?
High school.
Yeah. So before I came here, I even polled my GW class, and there's only 20 kids. They're 18 years old though, and they're still ranking Snapchat above Instagram, above Facebook. But they're using it more, what Tiffany said, like more one-to-one, more personal and more group stuff. Like they're not really watching the published content things. So my thing I always say is, if you are currently targeting that teen generation or will be someday, so I think like college admissions need to be on Snapchat and Musical.ly because they're going to be your audience. I would be there. If you're a conference center, if you're like a association, you probably don't need to be on Snapchat.
But kind of the overarching theme of everything is just your audience, knowing what your audience likes, what they're into, using the analytics, using Google Analytics, going in there, seeing where they're coming from, like what they're looking at, how they got there, like keyword searches, making sure your website lives up to par. That's my big project. That's what I was kind of brought on to fix the website after X amount of years. So I'm in the back end trying to make sure that when we actually launch it, it's great, and also knowing that clients will need a refresh and for SEO and all of that. So I think kind of just all the trends that we're talking about, all these different things, it's just knowing kind of what your audience likes. For the conference center, for meetings, for learning and development, that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Learning and development stuff. I mean, they want to know how to make their meetings easier. They want to know that they have expert planners, and so we can talk about the bar specials and drafts and all the stuff we have, and you can go to a vineyard, you can go to a brewery. The reality is that you just have to know your audience and what they're looking for. So my audience is not on Snapchat, but it sounds like you love Snapchat.
Yeah.
So
I lurk on Snapchat just to see what's going on. But like all my people in my age group just dropped off in the last year. I think it's just good to see what's going on. But yeah, I don't use it as a marketing tool. I'm on Instagram stories, and I think unless it's like learning and development professionals probably aren't on Snapchat unless they're 18 years old. So yeah. Do you want to do one more question or turn it over, Carla? Should we do Q&A or do you want to go? Which way do you want to go, Tiffany?
No, we can do Q&A.
I just have a follow-up on that. How do you, so I'm not a marketer, I used to dabble in it, but how do you keep in the know of like what the demographics are of the different platforms? So like Snapchat being mostly 16-year-olds, Twitch being mostly like 20 and 30 something men and things like that. Like where do you find that information and how it changes so quickly? Do you have any hacks for that? Other than like
The two hacks that I have are one, like I said 20 minutes ago, like trying to read about it, read reports, read articles, hear what other marketer and thought leaders are saying about it. And then the second one, the other story I share is my cousin Jenny has two 11 or 12-year-old twins, boy and a girl. And last year I was there, and her son Joey did not know what ESPN News was. ESPN Sports Center had no clue. But the minute we threw up a phone and put on YouTube, he went to Dude Perfect like that and showed me like how to skip the ad quicker, how to scrub through it, and he was all over YouTube. And then later that night he was on Musical.ly, and then he might have at 11 or 12 he might have had a Snapchat account. So it's like reading what the statistics say and what the trends are saying, and then just like what you said with your brother and sister, like does that match up? And then what does your guts tell you too?
Is there any type of aggregator that's doing it for all of them, or do you just kind of like deep dive into each of them and look at the analytics page?
Business Insider, I get some news from. There's a great NYU Stern professor, Scott Galloway, that does some great predictions and great insight to this. You got to kind of just, it's like Easter. You got to hunt around for the different eggs and like figure out what's good and what's bad.
Well, when I'm not listening to true crime podcasts, I'm listening to marketing podcasts. There's a lot of really good ones, and also I think any of like the up and coming, because when podcasts got really big, but I think a lot of brands thought that would be a great idea, and it's worked for a lot. I think Crooked Media, for example,
huge.
They have such a good base of people that it's just even people that aren't voting yet, but they're trying to get that young demographic in.
Which media? Sorry.
Crooked Media.
What?
Crooked.
They do Pod Save America. They do like 7 different podcasts.
From Crooked Media, so now they're this huge umbrella basically that they can bring in talent, and they just have the podcast and they turn it into like a speaking tour. And, it's a huge like merch. I mean, they sell out of merch, so I just think that. Podcasts definitely. I'm not really into blogs so much anymore. I think they just take too much time to read, which is like another thing that I would rather listen to information than, be at work and take time away from the weekend to be on the computer more. So I think that, and that's what I get a lot of my clients always asking, like, should we write a blog? And it's like, but what is it about? That would maybe be better in, a white paper, or we could do like a video interview or something like that. So, I think podcasts, I read Digiday a lot, so Twitter, I get like a lot of digital information from. And I just think it's important too to kind of like tune out a little bit and enjoy not being on computers and phones. Because I think when you travel a little bit too, you kind of get to experience different things and what other people are doing. So I think that's really important. Like I was out in Sonoma, and the vineyard, we went to this vineyard and it was run by like people that looked like they were freshmen in college, and it was totally like them starting this vineyard. They raised money from investors, but they weren't really on social media because they wanted to connect with their people that came, and they just felt it was too much of a time suck. But it kind of was nice because they had, that kind of no phone policy, and you just come and share. So, that's something else I just wanted to talk about for a second, was that a big trend I think for next year is going to be more of the influencer, which I know people don't like that word, so we usually say ambassador. But for example, we had the Nova Foodies group in Northern Virginia, so it's 33,000 members in a private group. So you have to be invited in, and it was this whole thing just to get in, because I don't have Facebook. So I had to create an account, and I had one friend. So I got in and ended up meeting a friend of mine that I didn't know she was in the group. So we ended up doing an event at the conference center, and we had 400 people come, and it was just from that group, just posting it a week before, you know, come to that. So I think it's having more of that private messaging is going to happen. It's not going to be so much public facing stuff. So having brand ambassadors, having people that will vouch for you, because I don't think people are posting as much stuff online anymore. So finding those little groups.
We should have been doing this over wine. That you went like I was just like we got to talk more Sonoma, more wine stuff. I think we need to do this over wine in a couple months, Carla. All right, we got more to talk about after this.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
Anything?
So I work for a nonprofit, and it's lovely, but there's never enough money to do everything that we want to do, especially when it comes to content. And a lot of where I am is really the event space. So we have all of this like beautiful, organic, user-generated content, but we struggle to like put that out to the public to get them engaged. So I guess a couple questions. One, how would you recommend you getting like quality content, like you were saying, these great videos? I mean, I think there's utility in both the 4K and then the behind the scenes. I'm at this event and I'm taking a video on my phone, but also still control the message. I don't know if you have suggestions on that.
What nonprofit is it?
The ALS Association.
Okay.
It's like help.
Mhm. Well, yeah, I would just say to look at all the content you have user generated and how you can make it into a campaign. If it's something where you just ask people to send, you know, you pick a topic, just tie it into a bigger campaign where you can have something you post weekly, or even the stories, Instagram stories. You know, I think it's just such a good way to keep not, you know, just in their face all the time, but it's not filling up, you know, your whole feed and getting lost too. So yeah, I would just look at how you can work it into a bigger campaign. Like crowdsourcing is amazing. That's what sometimes I think a lot of companies struggle with, is that they don't have crowdsourced stuff, or people aren't doing the location tags anymore, or they're all private accounts. So that's great. That's a good problem.
Do you have any recommendations on resources that are high quality but not high cost, that maybe would use to like get great photos or get nice videos? I mean, like we have a lot of great content, but it's not high quality content. So
4K camera. I just bought this Sony before the holidays, and I kept telling it I need a 4K camera. And for 2 years, I had it right in my pocket. So I think just understanding how to use this, where to put the camera, how to do a focus mode, you know, should I do horizontal or vertical video? You know, if I take a picture of Carla, should I do it with the light behind, or should I do it under there? Again, like you guys, like I tried to bring one of my videographers with me, and he wasn't available. So like I have my mic set up, I have my camera that Neville and Carla are running for me, thank you. And now I have video, I have audio for my podcast, and I could take this and like finish up my blog post. So you might be in an event and you could do 3 things in one shot. And you could maybe do an Instagram story, guest story. So maybe your members, you do a, you know, 1 day a week, you do a story and they take it over for the day, but you give them you give them a box of what you want them to kind of share and not share. And you can still control it.
I also think you can reach out if you know some local photographers that you see like out in the community.
Mm-hmm.
It does not hurt to reach out to them and just say, you know, present a campaign to them. Tell them what you want to do. Give them like a scope of work, a shot list, something like that. But tell them, just ask, like say, you know, I'm doing this. It'd be great if you could come maybe help, you know, an hour of your time basically. And if it's a nonprofit, a lot of photographers, they would be willing to do that, especially during the day. Yeah. In this community, I mean, DC, it's big, but it's really not that big. So they kind of all know each other. And a lot of my friends are like in the Instagram DC community. They're like always at the Jefferson Memorial. Like I don't know why they all go together to take the same picture and then compete over which filter is gonna get. Like it's hilarious to me. But they also look for nonprofits and stuff to do because they're up very early. and they want to give back in some way too, not just shooting events, not just going to concerts and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a lot of what I did. So that's kind of how I got into knowing a lot more people, saying yes to a lot of things at first. It's good. You'll meet people. You'd be surprised how much people do want to give back and do it every time.
What other specific questions does everybody in the audience have? Go ahead. What's your name?
I'm Matt.
Matt.
So I hate to change the topic a little bit. We've been talking about authentic organic content. So I work in the paid media space with associations of brands and on behalf of them for their agencies. But so last year we saw a lot of everything was going through primarily through programmatic and then also through search. Do you, that seems to be kind of like where everything is catapulting now is more of the paid search, paid social. Do you see other topics within paid media that are going to, or you predict to be popular throughout this coming year?
The audio stuff. So one of the things I wrote down is I've been, as much to my wife's chagrin and disappointment, we got a second Alexa for upstairs and smart plugs, and it's driving her nuts. Probably why she's not here tonight. She just doesn't want to support this stuff. But I got the second Alexa because I can now wake up and say, Alexa, what's my daily briefing? And she gives me, I'm in the golf, so golf news, CNN, Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, all while I'm brushing my teeth and shaving. Don't have to take out any phone. And what CNN and some of these, and even Crooked Media is doing this on the podcast side, are ad reads. So a lot of people think I need to start my podcast or I need to figure out how to do daily briefings. Well, you need to have a really big brand for people to know to enable that or download your podcast. But I think where you can start doing some paid media is like CNN says it right now at the end of every CNN Alexa briefing. They say, hey, if you want an ad like this, blah, 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 like go to our website or contact so-and-so. And I don't know what the like how much you should be paying for how much reach, but a lot of people are embedding audio marketing, whether it's reads of like Sonos speakers on Pod Save America, Alexa briefings, or the third alternative, Oral-B, the toothpaste company, the toothbrush company. They worked with Gimlet Media in New York City, and they created a podcast called Chompers last year. My wife and I don't have kids, but we acted like 3-year-olds when we listened to this. Chompers is a 4-minute podcast, morning and night, released every day, Monday through Friday, or maybe 7 days a week. It's 2 or 4 minutes, and it specifically tells a story about lizards and apples and vegetables. But every 30 seconds, it beeps. Why do you think it beeps? Change your side, right? And so it's a podcast, and so you can play it on Spotify, play it on Alexa. So you go in the bathroom with your 3-year-old, say, brush your teeth, Timmy, and you listen to the podcast about Louis the Lizard, switch sides, and at the very end it says, this podcast was brought to you from Colgate or Oral-B. That's it. What do you think happens when the parents go to the supermarket that Sunday? It's like ingrained in their head. So I don't know what that costs or implementation, but I think that's another paid media play. That's just natural. It's not a swipe ad. It's not in your face. It's not intrusive.
Even in that same vein, with all the Alexa stuff happening for SEO, the voice messaging that's going to start happening, and how is technology going to handle that? Because people are going to start asking, take me to that site. Mm-hmm. So not only now do your websites have to have the SEO built in for, organic searches and paid searches, but you're going to have a paid search for voice messaging. Which I think is really exciting, but at the same time, it just kind of makes paid advertising that much more important. I mean, I think digital marketing is 90% paid advertising at this point. I think organic is great, and if you can go viral, like every single place I've ever worked has always said, I want to go viral, and that's not a thing, but sometimes it is, but it's really about just being really strategic. And I've always worked at places where I like to really look at a budget. I don't like just to spend freely and hope it works. I want to really make sure that if we're spending and we have to justify our budget to get more next time. So especially like with Facebook, with Twitter. I really haven't had tons of success on Twitter with ads because I don't know if people are actually stopping to take time and look at it. But Instagram's been really, really good. But yeah, I think that's kind of a really big thing coming up is Alexa searches, and Siri and iPhone's really been doing that.
Just remember with all of this, one, these are our points of view, but also we're talking about marketing and then branding. And so the stat that I share in my classes is 80% of this generation hate the hard sell. Like I told you about my 12-year-old cousin's kid, like he knows how to skip an ad faster than I do. My college students know how to scroll past an ad quicker than I do. And we hate that intrusive hard sell, whether it's a podcast ad, an Instagram story ad, etc. And so think about the story. Like, I don't know how many in here have like bought a product because they saw one ad. I did that last year. I bought a coat on Facebook and the coat was shit. And I was like, I got duped. And I investigated, I got duped. So I think a lot of people are more interested in like, if you told the story of ALS and what you're doing and hit the emotional heart center, we would give to you and we would support, et cetera. So I think you got to focus on the story and the branding, and then the people that are attracted to that stuff, then you could retarget them. You have a right to retarget them. And then the last thing I'll say about Amazon and the search stuff is brand is going to be going away soon, and Amazon's going to control that paid brand. Meaning if I tell Alexa, deliver me cookies, sure, I like Oreos, but they're going to give me the Amazon basic Oreos first because that's what comes up first, and they're just going to put it in the basket and send it to me. So I need to say, Alexa, give me Oreo cookies. But when you order that through audio, do you see the packaging anymore? So like visual brand could be in trouble. I think somebody had their hand up back there.
Hi. I was just wondering if you could speak about the digital marketing news feeds you follow and the books you read, like how we can find out more about this.
That last stat I shared about the 80% of this generation hates a hard sell. I listened to a great podcast called Story Brand by Donald Miller. He's all about story branding on website, social, etc. Seth Godin, he sends an email every day. Sometimes it's too much, but he's great. Gary Vee, obviously. Scott Galloway, I mentioned. Business Insider. Rick Mulready, The Art of Paid Traffic.
He names like 2 of the 3 that I have, so yeah. I'm just on Twitter a lot, looking at marketing accounts, digital accounts. I think the hospitality industry in particular does a really, really good job of marketing such a broad, like a hotel, for example. They have meetings, they have a bar, they have a restaurant, they have an entertainment space, they have a pool, they have drink specials, and they have customer service that they're dealing with. So I think if you're really kind of looking at how can we fit all this stuff in, or how do we make it, all these different parts come together, I would suggest like looking at some of those. There's one company, a boutique company in New York, Becca PR. She does such a good job promoting all these chefs. So she travels a lot, but yet she goes to dinners and will kind of like break down recipes and different stuff like that. And her following just keeps growing. I think Chrissy Teigen does a really good job. She's a great ambassador. She's just really fun, and she gets to do all this stuff and makeup lines and all these different things. But if she was boring on social media, no one would really care. So I think it's just finding your voice and really just going with your gut for a lot of stuff. I mean, I think people can tell when you're bored and you're not having fun on social, and you sound like you're selling something. And then, the flip side, people don't want to see, especially for me, when I started at the conference center, was we don't want to see the pumpkin carving contest. Like, our clients don't care who won. That's something internal, so just finding that voice of the people looking at our site want to know what we're doing, what's happening, what specials we have tonight, what events are coming up. So just being, authentic with it, but finding that voice. And it's hard sometimes. Like here with the government, that was really hard to find her voice and keep everything the way she wanted, but it was still supposed to be really creative. So just having meetings with your team, having a really good team, having people that we're talking about, what to read, but I have a friend and she does a lot of what I do, and just talking to her, asking her ideas, getting feedback. So you don't kind of feel like you're in a vacuum by yourself doing all this work, and it's overwhelming. So just ask her, do you think that's a good idea? And she'll say, no, I don't think so. Or yeah, that's awesome, I want to do it too. So collaborating, that's how you build your community and you can get the ambassadors. And that's how we work with Creative DC and all these people. So.
Go ahead. What's your name?
Cindy, my name is Cindy, and I wanted to ask, do you guys know like any events that you know that they talk about really good about marketing and that it's good that probably
Events to attend. This one? More GA stuff?
I mean, South by Southwest used to be the place. So I would think it's probably back in New York now. I know that there was like a marketing conference, but really the thing with social media is you can do so many online webinars if you're into that, that you can find something like a space or, again, Facebook groups. I mean, really look at Facebook. There's something for everything. And there's so many, and if it's private, that's kind of even better because then you have to be a little bit qualified to go and just give like a little bio, but they're offering, like you can ask a question and they'll give you feedback on something. So it's like a message board, but it's still Facebook, so you still have a face. And then you can connect, just like sending a message if you want to meet and something. I just find that people, if you ask them, not necessarily go to coffee, but if there is someone that is in your field that you want, to meet because you're liking what they're doing or the campaigns they're working on, I think it's been really helpful to kind of go and send an agenda when you email them, like 3 questions you want to ask, so they don't feel that pressure of 15 minutes chatting and then 15 minutes getting into it. Because I do think people are more willing to meet and stuff like that. So if there is someone you're thinking about, you should just connect with them on LinkedIn. Yeah, I don't know any events. I know creative events here in DC.
Yeah, like DC, like you said, DC Creatives or Creative DC. There's DC Photography Instagram account. A lot of them, they do like Insta meetups. So that's where you could learn like Instagram photography or videography tips. And then just the space that we're in, like there's 8 or 9 WeWorks, there's MINDSPACE, there's GA, 1776. I would just like get on their newsletter, get on DC Inno's newsletter, or just maybe like call up, like, hey, what do you got going on this week? Or show up, Eventbrite, meetup.com. So there's a bunch, and I would agree with you, Tiffany, like get into a room where you can like meet with other colleagues and talk with other people. But we're in a major city. There's a bunch of stuff going on. I think you have to find it. Any other challenges that you guys are going through, or thoughts or ideas you want to bounce off of us, or trends you're curious about? Neville.
Let's throw a trend out. And this is kind of connecting to the LinkedIn question from earlier and a few of the other ones. How do you think about a few like things coming together? There's the more kind of like personal brands that I see. Like if someone started Nike today, I think it would be called like Phil Knight Shoes, not Nike. So the idea of like very personal versus very corporate, combined with even like in copywriting, we see very chatty copy recently. Do you think of those as like kind of current short-term trends, or is that part of what you're talking about with the younger generation? Like they don't like the hard sell. Is that just going to keep going, like more personal, more behind the scenes?
I think from the copy side, I think, we're lazy, we don't have time, we're sloppy a little bit with our writing, and we can get away with it on all these platforms. So I think that like the formatting and copywriting on captions and LinkedIn and Instagram is a little bit more chatty. And I also agree, like too many emojis is too much, especially if it's off-brand or just isn't right. But as far as like personal brand versus corporate, going back to your question, I think there is. My wife is lucky enough; she works for a company like they want her to have a little bit of a digital reputation, digital brand. They want their people to do that because like if she get asked to like sit in an event or go speak or go travel or do this, like she's representing her company. That could lead to a connection that brings in business or does this or puts them in a good spotlight. So I think it just opens up so many doors of it's a limitless connection economy. So I think that's why personal brand versus with the corporate side does go so well.
But do you think is that a short trend, or do you think that will continue?
For the next 2 or 3 years, I think that will continue. if there's something new that comes out, or if Instagram drops or something happens, we all hate it, then that could change. And I think we're all younger on those platforms. Like, we all act a little bit younger. So I don't think it's necessarily going away. Especially, if something can come out that replaces emojis or replaces captions or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of brands, I saw some article that was talking about all these really popular fashion brands that have rebranded in the past, I think, year and a half, and they all have like the same font now. So like Burberry changed and now it looks like Balenciaga, and so everything looks the same. And so they were basically talking about, why is that happening? Like, why is this modern font taking over all these like old brands? And so I think that's kind of the same thing. I think that people are going to kind of start craving kind of that old school. I mean, one of the big things I got in social media, because I'm an English major, so I was able to read and write really well and proofread, and that was a huge issue. It still is a huge issue with any kind of copy, making sure that it sounds right and all the, the punctuation is correct. So I think that, I personally think that it needs to be a little bit longer. I don't think you should write a paragraph on Facebook, but I do think some brands get like a little bit lax. And I think that people are going to start wanting that authentic kind of, tell me a little bit more. I don't want all the brands to look the same, all the logos, all the text. I mean, it kind of does, like Squarespace. Every site now looks like Squarespace. It's great. It's great for brands that don't have a web developer, but I do think that it's going to be important to kind of be able to write well and long form and be able to story tell and not just write in 40 character snippets all the time. So.
Good question. What else?
Just
Good.
out of curiosity, have you seen Tiffany's rebrand?
No, my friend works there. I've not.
It like blew my mind the first time I saw one.
They didn't change their color, did they?
I was about to say.
No, same color, but
Fonts?
now you can tell they're marketing towards a younger demographic. And I mean, I would say, I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else in this room, but people in their 30s and late 20s, I'm not sure that Tiffany's is like where they're going when they're like engagement ring Tiffany's, because it had that kind of older feel to it. And their rebrand is really interesting to me, because I'm curious to see who will stick around. Like, will they keep the audience that they had and then build on it, or is their current audience going to be like?
Well, that's the thing though. It's like a lot of, I know they've relaunched with like a big, it was like a blue bash or something that they did. And it's like a lot of the ambassador stuff, because I mean, like, even now, like if Meghan Markle wears a jacket, it will sell out in 30 minutes. So I think that brands understand how important it is to have the right person wearing their things. And also, she'll wear a brand that you've never heard of and it sells out, and they have to say, you can't wear that anymore because we can't produce it. So like that kind of stuff, I think that Tiffany's is really, really good at being relevant all the time, especially like they even did the Sweet Home Alabama thing, where that was like completely, no one was allowed on that floor to film, and then they did it to kind of keep it fresh. That was the kind of thing, the age demographic too, that they were targeting, because that came out when I was in high school, so about the same age now. But yeah, my friend works there, and she works in the antique department, so she gets all the old stuff. And it's incredible, the stuff that she gets from families that have had it for 2-3 generations. So it is a generational thing that they'll buy earrings for their daughter. But that's really cool that they're going
This is
along.
This definitely, so this says vibrant. It looks very youthful. The thing that I like is they do hashtag a Tiffany diamond a day. So like every day they're showing up with a different diamond, so they're doing something consistent. I think that's a good little lesson, is like, what could you do a day or show up every day on a platform that's super simple. You want to do one, like I ask you a question, you ask me a question, vice versa, or where do you want to take this, Carla? What else did you want to have us hopefully talk about?
Well, I was telling them earlier that usually when we open the floor for questions, people are a little bit shy, so they don't get to ask as much. But we can wrap it up, and you can approach them and ask them if you want to, or I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm very curious. I recently saw, I don't know if you guys have seen it, the movie about the fire, well, not movie, the documentary about the fire festival. And I was, yeah, and I think that would, I don't know if you've seen it. I would be very curious to know your opinion on how.
It makes me want to throw up.
How that went. Yeah.
Did you see it?
No.
Go home and watch it tonight.
I don't know which one to watch first.
Yeah, I heard there was a Hulu one, the Netflix one. My wife, we watched it this weekend, and my wife and I flipped a coin. Like, she wanted to watch that, I forget what I want to watch, and that one. In the first 5 minutes, I almost walked out of the room because I'm like, this guy is a tool. Never would have been friends with him in college. And like, this was a glorified spring break for him. But yeah, like some of my friends' podcasts, like they're talking about it. Like, I think it's almost like a trend to play off of in your brand or something like that. Amy Schumer played off of it. It's a pop culture moment for sure.
What would be the spin-off of that for like, for example, non-profits or
Stay away. Like, don't.
No,
Yeah.
well,
Like, don't try to play into.
who do have
Yeah.
a product, right? Like, because he didn't have a product and he didn't have the team. But like, if you do have the team or you do have a mission or a goal, what would be the spin-off of that when you don't have the budget to hire?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not even talking about the actual
Festival.
festival
Yeah.
or even recording of the video. Like, I'm just thinking about like how they chose. Like, we're gonna reach out to all these influencers and then put the orange tile situation. So how would you spin up that to smaller
marketing?
teams or when you don't
Well,
have
yeah. So one, I liked the fact that they did have cameras rolling during the whole process, almost too much to their like downfall. But like, and unfortunately, like every shot of them on the island was them drinking or on a jet ski or on a boat. But they had the cameras rolling. Sure, they had the $80,000 Red 8K cameras, but like your next conference or event, you could have this rolling as long as it's charged up. So you could document everything that you wanted to. And as far as a spin-off, I don't know how much money they spent, but they targeted what, like 500 or they targeted like 500 of the top female model Instagram influencers, and that's what like lit the match. So I think if you have a very targeted campaign, you need to find like your matchbook, like who are those 5 to 10 to 20, 30, 50 people that will just get it going for you. So that could be your members, that could be your volunteers, that could be your CEO, your C-suite, that could be your students, whoever. Find those 5 or 6, that 10% of people that will be your kindling and start the fire for you. And that's how Fire Festival got sold out in like a day or 2, I think.
The weird thing, I didn't realize this until I started watching that documentary. That festival was supposed to create buzz for this
An app.
Yeah, this app.
That was almost like not a decoy, but like that was a branding move, the festival, to get people there, get it branded, and then download the app and use it.
The app was not weaved into their marketing campaign or the festival or at all.
Yeah.
I had no idea it existed. But it was, that I thought was odd because who of those people that are going to go to the festival are going to then use that app?
Yeah.
Are they the ones that are booking that kind of talent for a major event or, I don't know, your birthday party or something? I mean, are those, is that the same? I
want to know how much we can get Ja Rule to come to like my birthday party or something, like, because that was an option.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was like an odd thing to me. Now, granted, they did a terrible job with everything they were doing and executing, so maybe I shouldn't even ask these questions.
Yeah.
But
well, that's why it's important to have very well thought out
campaign
and to strategize.
Yep.
And it's I'm not like a huge fan of content calendars because I think sometimes things change and just day to day, like you want to just kind of switch it up, or this event's happening, you're going to do this instead. But having like, they had no plan for anything. It was just like, oh, the models will tweet about it.
That was the only plan they had. Was that Orange Square?
The Fire Festival is a lesson from there. Like, is that marketing genius or No, like everyone wants to make fun of them, but I think that's basically like the one time the American dream or whatever went wrong.
I think it was promotion genius.
Yeah,
Right.
it was.
Not a
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
amount
yeah,
of events
yeah.
running.
Incredibly successful.
And because they were documenting stuff, the branding was sexy. Hot, like it was aspirational.
They sold out a thing that
Yeah,
didn't exist.
yeah.
Yeah, but then they-
And then they just effed up on the other 90%. The 10% they did
So
awesome.
their
Yeah,
marketing department should get a promotion. Their like fulfillment department should get
yeah,
fired.
yeah,
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 and they just
yeah.
got money from Hulu, so
yeah.
they're still making money.
And we're still talking about
Yeah.
a festival that didn't happen. Like
Yeah.
like marketers of the year, but
Yeah.
also all the other insults you want to give them also
Yeah,
deserve.
yeah.
But
They use influencer marketing to a T.
yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to both kind of wrap up our last couple of thoughts, or any other questions? We can chat. Go ahead. What's your name?
Hi, Nora. You mentioned a content calendar.
Mhm.
And so I know that, Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, that's used to kind of refine the content calendar over time as you learn more about your audience. But what other inputs are there to learn about your audience from the get-go? Especially if they're, somewhat elusive. They're not teenagers who are putting everything out there. They're, a little bit older. Not as interested in things as others.
Well, what are you trying to? What do you do?
So I'm in marketing. I sell technology.
Mhm.
So the types of technology that I'm selling is a little bit more heady. It's not beautiful. It's not a hotel room on the coast. It's not a lifestyle brand. These are highly conceptual storytelling. And I'm trying to learn more about my audience. They're a little bit hard to draw out. They're not on social media. They're not giving it to me for free. So, we're looking at readership surveys and things like that. But, I'm looking to learn more about them, and I'm looking for inputs.
Well, I would always suggest to look at, your company, and I like to kind of break it out of what you like to do with them. Like, why are you passionate about the company you're working for? What excites you about that? If you're saying they're not on social media, then I think with email marketing would be great. Like a Medium blog, because then you can kind of, again, like rise to the top if you're talking about something really specific, which it sounds like you are. So I don't know how many people are talking about that. So that kind of already has a unique thing that you would be the only person in more of the educational realm of that. And you'd be surprised too, like with email marketing, if you have a link to something, to a blog, to your website to learn more, to sign up, those kind of things. And maybe like you should look at like a webinar as something where if you have experts talking about breaking it down, that might be more helpful. And then you can promote it. I don't think Instagram, they're not on Instagram, but they're probably on LinkedIn. And there's a lot of technology stuff on LinkedIn, a lot of groups there, especially like a lot of government groups. I think that just there's so much technology, especially in this area, that you can look at too. And there's a lot of tech meetups. I see that a lot. So just engaging with them. But yeah, like you have to kind of own it a little bit. Like why are you there? So just write about what you know too.
What type of professionals are they? Like IT?
IT, line of business, there's a convergence there.
Sure.
Now, so it's kind of
Yeah. They're somewhere on social. It's just you can't find them, or they're on their personal stuff. I'm a big believer of like social listening on the comments and lurking side. So that's why I'm on Snapchat. I'm on Snapchat to see like what's happening, how are people using it, how are content providers using it, and then I go on YouTube and I'll watch different videos, and I just go in the comment section to see like how are people talking, what do they think about this topic, things like that, and then try to maybe replicate that language. It sounds like you don't have that that privilege or that way to do that. I would actually find out what their pain points are by doing a couple things. Maybe interviewing 5 or 10 of them for a podcast or a blog. Like, hey, we'd love to feature you. Do you have 20 minutes to be on our podcast or 20 minutes to talk by phone and I can interview you? And then strategically ask them questions that will get you ideas of what you can then help them with, or turn it into a podcast or blog post. And then seasonal stuff. So I talk about this all the time. When I was working at Rutgers, we knew when midterms were, when finals were, when summer breaks were, when Friday nights were. So we knew how to craft and create content around different things that would then go back to our bigger marketing objectives. So like, I'm sure seasonal stuff or trends with government, like if something breaks that hand ties IT professionals or new software comes out that like allows them to do something, you guys should be the one breaking the news or writing how to do this, how, you know, why this is important. So I think seasonal stuff, news cycle stuff, what's happening in those professionals' industry, and have them be the resource, you be the resource for them to come hear you first.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. As I said, I know people approach them usually at the end. Feel free to approach them. I'll be sending a follow-up email so you can learn about other events that are happening. But yeah, if you have any more questions to them or to me, feel free to reach out, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.